Hey everyone, and welcome back to Millennial Mind. I'm so excited to tell you that I've got a new summer series with a very special guest and one that you all loved when she came on my podcast. Every week, I'm trying to make this podcast better for you, and I only ask for one small, tiny little favor from all of you, which is to press the subscribe or follow button wherever you're watching this. I'm so excited to introduce you to this very special series, so let's get into it. Rhona!
Shiv. I told you I love that. I feel like it's a really cute nickname, but also I told you this reminds me of Succession, and she's a power bitch.
A power bitch. You know, I hate the word bitch. Did you know that?
Did you not?
I'm really offended by it, and I don't know why.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
I think it's like a really mean insult, not in the way you just said it.
Yeah.
But you know when someone says like, you're a bitch, I think it's like a really mean thing. But anyway, today we are talking about...
C word's way more offensive.
Really? I don't know.
Mate.
I think bitch is really mean. And cow. Do you? No, you obviously don't mean cow. You mean the other
never
word.
used cow since I was like 12, so like lol. Go on.
I know. I don't think anyone ever says that, but I'm just saying when people do say that. You know in jokes when people be like, you stupid cow, and I'm like... Huh?
Yeah.
And no one's ever said that to me, but you know when people say it to friends,
Like that,
I'm
you
like,
get offended for the other person.
yeah, I'm offended for the other person. I'm like, what were you thinking?
Second-hand offence.
Sorry?
Second-hand offended.
Yeah, literally. Anyway, I wanted to speak to you about this because I know it's a topic that's close to your heart, and one I actually think loads of people had requested for us to speak about, which is body image. Now, I think as a female, and from speaking to so many different people on my podcast, almost every girl has been through a journey with her body, what she looks like, what society expects her to look like, what she believes she should be. And I think it's actually a really hard thing for some people to talk about. But I know you've had your own journey with it. So why don't you share?
So it's a really, 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 really difficult topic. I haven't actually opened up to you about it fully. I've given you a few like nuggets. And it's really sad because it's something that I'm still massively working on.
Yeah.
You know when you're a child and you're literally just living your best life and you just don't care. And I remember growing up as a child and my parents, with the greatest like love in the world, would sometimes make comments. So like my dad was really concerned if I was like eating too many biscuits, and he'd be like, you're going to end up like your aunt. My aunt lives in America and she's like morbidly obese and all this stuff. And I think that like narrative wasn't great for me. And my mum used to say things like, oh, you're going to grow up to be a bit like me, not sporty. You're going to be like... You know, it was sort of, and I was a kid, right? Like I was a kid, like just living my best life. I don't know, like 10, you know, like 10 years old. But I didn't care. And I went to university and had a really healthy relationship with food throughout school. So my school was really healthy in terms of like, we literally just ate everything. Like we were quite naughty in the sense that my mum was a nutritionist and my food at home was really healthy, but I used to go like to the tuck shop and buy like loads of chocolates and sweets and stuff like that.
Shop, I remember.
And there was never, and I grew up in North London and I grew up in an environment where it's very much like Beyonce, Shakira. So like people were like, oh my God, love your body sort of thing. Anyway, there was one girl at my school and really sadly, she was, I'd say like just baby fat, like as in like a little bit chubby. But she was best friends with me and she always felt really insecure around me. And she actually developed anorexia and she was the only person in my school that had developed anorexia. But I remember being incredibly uncomfortable around her because, you know, like she'd never eat. And I found like, well, why is she not eating? And I feel really guilty about eating. And I feel like those behaviours have an impact on you when actually that person's suffering. It's a really difficult one, you know. But anyways, that was that. Then I went to university and I used to get scouted for modelling all the time. So I used to get stopped. And by the big agencies like Storm, Premier, all those stuff at the back in the day. And I used to like go for castings and really innocently I asked the people at university that I was living with to come with me. Now the girls that I lived with at university, they all went to boarding school. So it was a completely different thing. They were all into heroin chic. It was the Kate Moss fashion back then. And what they did is that they were all really, really subscribed to eating disorders. So, for example, they lived since they were 10 years old. They were boarded, right? So you can imagine completely different to us. So the girls that they lived with or at university had bulimia, anorexia. Like I literally went to my university halls and everyone out there, like I'd say 4 out of 5 people had some kind of disordered eating habit. And I was like, this is so weird. And they were so obsessed with that kind of like heroin chic look. So I was going off to my castings and stuff, and I was in like a lot of fashion shows, and I did a lot of like beauty campaigns and things. And they'd say to me like really innocently how like I should probably consider like losing weight, or they'd compare me to sort of your stereotypical like straight up and down girl. And I started to like look in the mirror, and I used to like pinch myself. Like I remember it so distinctly, like really at 21 I started like pinching myself and being like, wow, do I need to lose weight? Like what do I need to do? And I got into a really restrictive eating cycle. So I basically decided I'd never exercised before. And I just like literally went to the gym and just started like doing treadmill stuff. That wasn't working. No one had noticed. And then I started restricting like from like 3 meals a day to 2 meals a day, then to 1 meal a day, then to like an apple a day. Like literally it got that bad. And then what happened is I got so skeletal, as in like my upper body has always been like quite lean. So I looked like I had like ribs popping out. It was like there was like literal rib cages, and like my arms looked so undernourished. And I'd say like my legs just got to like a thinner state, but they were never going to be like skinny legs, because genetically I'm just not like that. But obviously, guess what? Surprise, surprise, I couldn't make anyone happy. And then everyone started saying that I looked really ill and I looked like I had an eating disorder. And I wouldn't say, you know, I wasn't at that stage where I was ever hospitalized, but I was definitely like a restrictive eater. And if I'm honest with you, I kept that up for about 10 years. I literally kept that up for 10 years, to like being a restricted eater. And then obviously I got into the real world, graduated, working world, and I couldn't do it anymore. And then sadly, like most people, I piled on, you know, like I was actually like about 15 kilos lighter then than I am now. And I piled it on because you just can't sustain that. And then obviously that completely messes with your head, because you suddenly like are used to seeing one thing in the mirror, and then you change to another thing. Anyway, the point is that like I got to a stage where I have like a healthy relationship now with exercise, where I like exercise to like build muscle and nourish my body and mental health. And I have like, I'm literally eat anything I want, as in like I went through a bad cycle of like binging, restricting, and now I'm like, if I want chocolate, I'll have half a chocolate.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'll have whatever I want every day. But I don't think that there is a single day, and if I'm honest with you, I'm really embarrassed to actually say this, I don't think there's like a single day that I actually don't think about people judging my body, as in like
Really?
a single day. Yeah.
So what do you mean by that? Because you wear scrubs to work.
But I still think like, are people thinking like I look fat in my scrubs, or do people like judge me, or like what do I look like? And
Really?
yeah, it's like, it's so sad, but I feel like it's always going to be there, because I feel like I've always got people's judgments. And I think that when people make comments, they don't know how harmful it is. And it's so harmful. And it's like so harmful. And every year I go to a fasting clinic, I told you, and it's really good for my, and it's, you know, it's for my mental health. It's for everything. And I remember I went on holiday straight after that clinic, and obviously, like, you know, you're clean, you've been sleeping really well, like, you just look great. And
hold on, explain this fasting clinic. So you don't eat for how many days?
so it's a complete different thing. It's run by doctors. They don't let you do it if you're underweight at all. It's not a weight loss clinic at all. It's literally like they regenerate like stem cells.
Yeah.
They give you supplements. They bring you back on food. So by the time you leave, you're back on like 2,000 calories. Do you see what I mean? So like they integrate food back in. There's loads of research around it. As you, like Stephen Bartlett recently had a guest about like, fasting is amazing. Like people that have like cancer go there. Like it resets like diabetes, all this stuff. Anyway, so I went to go meet my friends in Ibiza, and there's a group of friends that live from Monaco, and one of the guys there was like, oh my God, I'd seen him like maybe 6 months before. He was like, oh my God, you look amazing. He was like, you've lost a lot of weight. And then he was just like, around, especially around here, and kind of like pointed to my hips, and he's like, oh, did you just like cut eating all the crap? And I went into a room, and then I just like locked myself in and just started like crying. And I was just like, I just feel like I'm never good enough. Like that's the narrative that I tell myself.
And then you feel that, you know, well, do I always have to keep this up? I think I think you're so right. Other people's comments can be really damaging. I had a very different childhood. I grew up in a house with 9 people, and in Indian families, food is at the heart of everything. And you know, a lot of people will say that their mums commented on their weight and their looks. I think I was raised with the most insane mum in the whole world. She has never once said to me, you should change this, you should do that. Now she'll be like, your hair's a bit messy, like, you know, do that. But she's never made me feel worried about what I'm eating, never told me not to eat something, never told me, you know, she's never made me feel restricted, if that makes sense. Now she's like, you need to eat more. But back then, she never made me feel like that. And I think growing up, I was a bit chubby. But, you know, my school lunch, I'm not joking, was a 7-Up, a Nutella sandwich, a packet of crisps and a chocolate. And now I blame my parents because I'm like, this is why I was so tired in school and probably why I got rubbish grades because I was just high on sugar. But, you know, I think growing up in an all-girls school, loads of people have eating disorders. Like everyone had an eating disorder. And I actually went through a really depressive time when my grandma died and I like picked up on a few things. But it was because I was really depressed and not necessarily because I was so body conscious. Does that make sense? Like I watched my grandma, I don't want to talk about it actually. But during that period when I was really unhappy, food makes me happy. Even to this day, if I'm sad, I can't eat. Like if I'm anxious,
I'm the opposite.
if I'm worried.
I'm an emotional eater.
No, if I'm anxious or I'm worried or I feel upset, I just won't eat. And with my body now, if I eat like what a normal person does, if I had a breakfast, lunch and dinner, I don't actually have breakfast if I'm completely honest. I have like brunch and then lunch and then like dinner a bit later. But if I had like a normal portion, I would lose so much weight because my body needs a lot of food. Because I'm very active, because I'm running around all the time and I also work out, it does need a lot of food. So last year, when I was so stressed with my job and with the podcast, I wasn't moving. I genuinely was hunched over a screen because I was working from home on both my job and this. And I felt that I lost so much weight and everyone had something to say about it. Everyone was like, tell me your diet routine. What's changed?
Was it positive comments?
Half of them were positive and half of them were negative. I felt online, everyone was like, you look amazing. And then my family
so toxic,
and my family friends were like, you look awful. Now, I've always been really, really conscious about my tummy. Very conscious because I've always had really skinny legs, really skinny arms. But my fat has generally always gone to my stomach. So last year when I lost all of that weight and I had abs and I finally had like the flat belly I'd been dreaming of, like the Victoria's Secret stomach, you know, when we were in school, that's what we were obsessed with, right? And that's what my school was obsessed with. You don't see that as much now. And I actually saw a clip of a Victoria's Secret model on a podcast and she said, I just thought everyone knew that it was fake.
But they didn't.
But how are we meant to know?
No, but also there's a journalist as well there was this journalist and she basically said that she tried the Victoria's Secret model diet and she was really exhausted, but literally that diet's sustainable for like 3 months. They're not doing it like full time 24/7.
Also, if you fast for a week, you'll see a significant difference in your
Totally.
body.
But the thing is like there's just so many different elements and I think that like I'm really grateful, I have to be honest, like grateful and disgrateful. Like I think the last 5 years, bar this year, and we'll go into that, were amazing because for the first time in my entire life, people were like, a big bum is cool. Whereas like literally my mum told me like, Rhone's like, cover up your bum at the beginning, like, you know, in a swimming costume. And like I had Eastern European friends that were like obviously the Russian type figures. And like I was like, okay, like it's ugly. And then in the last like 5 years, like the fitness industry in terms of like people wanting to like bulk up a bit and like have a bum, I was like, oh my god, like I'm actually okay, like it's actually something.
Dream of a big bum.
And I think it's really interesting because I was really grateful, but then I had a massive panic attack this year because all of a sudden I opened up the newspapers and social media and I was like, heroin chic's back.
Yeah.
And then people are taking weight loss injections and people are like conforming back to that, you know. And Jamil talks about this a lot.
I did see that.
Yeah, and she went to school with me as well, so she talks about it a lot, and she suffered a lot from like body dysmorphia and eating disorders. And I think that the thing is that we have to recognize, Dana Mercier as well, who I sent you the other day, we have to recognize that fashion changes all the time. Like now again, like it's not fashionable to be curvy. It's now back to fashionable to being like a bean, like pole and whatever. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to body shame anyone.
My mum calls me that.
But you know what? I'm not going to body shame anyone because we are all different shapes and sizes. I do struggle, though, with the extremes. And I think that, I don't know, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. I think it'd be interesting to see what you think about the different advertising platforms and media and the way that they're embracing body positivity. I'm like, why do people need to be like a size 0, a size 36? I don't understand what happened to all the people in between. Like, why can't we be representative? Like, why does the front cover have to be someone that's anorexic or morbidly obese? Like, I just don't get it. Like, we should be embracing all different types of body types. Like, what happened to the sizes like 8, 10, 12s? Do you see what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
No, I agree on that.
And I feel like that's where we're really lacking in our world today, because I'm like, the people that aren't so restrictive or the ones that are like on that kind of scale where maybe your health might be jeopardized, you know, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, etc. Where are all those people in between? And I think that that's where we have a lot of work to do still. But the one
They're
thing,
not represented.
yeah,
You do only see someone who's really thin and really skinny, and there's some brands actually who only have really skinny models and then literally have plus size models. And it's so confusing. It's like, so where
do you
are
remember
the...
the Skinny Bitch Collective? Yes, you do.
Oh my God, I'm so happy you reminded me of that. That guy, yeah? Russell. And he
Did you go to the
Skinny
classes?
Bitch Club. No, I didn't. But I always thought it was really cool and I wanted to go.
But look what it made you feel like.
know.
But now
Wild.
it wouldn't last 5 seconds,
That
babe.
wasn't that long ago, yeah?
Yeah, that was like 2 years ago. No, it wasn't.
No,
It was longer.
Rhona. It was 3 years ago.
He got cancelled. Do you remember why he got cancelled? Because of the Nairobi thing.
He got cancelled because that was only 3 years ago.
Are you sure?
SBC, it was called.
Yeah.
Skinny Bitch Club.
But the thing is, as well, is like, again, it's like, it was so non-inclusive. And the idea was, you said, like, he had models in his class.
I was just going to say, it
Yeah.
had all the, like, at that time I was modelling and it had all, like, the top models in the industry that went, which is why I really wanted to go. And we'll come on to, like, the modelling thing in a minute. But I do think that things like that now, you could never, ever, ever have them.
But yeah, of course you couldn't, because it's totally distasteful. And
But then you could have the opposite end of it and have like a club that was representative of bigger girls.
I don't know necessarily. I think the fitness industry has come a really long way, and maybe I'm wrong because I'm not wholly into the fitness industry, but like a lot of the fitness people that I surround myself by, the women have really, really, really healthy eating habits. They're genuinely interested in like building muscle. They're embracing that like stronger physique. Like I've really, really seen that. And I do still think, like, unfortunately, those that are plus size are getting scrutiny still. Like, really sadly, there was like, I think, a Samsung advert, or no, it wasn't, like some TV advert came out and it showed a plus size girl doing yoga, and people were absolutely ripping her apart. And I felt awful because they were basically saying, how can a girl of that size do yoga, which is absolute BS, 'cause, like, anyone can do yoga, like, since when? But it's the problem is that we have certain images ingrained in our head.
So true, of what an athlete is and what they're not.
A supermodel is, an athlete,
So true.
a yogi, do you see what I mean, and all this stuff. And I think that that's going to take a really, really long time. And also we have to remember, like, as Jamila said, like, fashion changes all the time. My mum really made me laugh one time. She goes, I don't understand. She goes, these fashion designers, these gays, they just want to dress little boys, so they make the clothes very, very small and they don't fit me, you know. And I'm like, okay, mum, like, you know.
So funny. Your Egyptian accent of your mum is too good.
And but
on that, sorry, I just want to say, Lizzo, actually, I did a Peloton class and Lizzo was in it, and she said, do you know how much of an athlete I am? She was like, I play the flute, I'm twerking, I'm singing, I'm entertaining, I'm dancing. And she's like, just because your definition of an athlete is different from mine, you can't say I'm not. And I agree.
yeah.
It doesn't mean if you're above a certain size that you're not an athlete. And I think loads of brands are actually encompassing that.
Yeah, I think also it's really sad because we can't just assume just because someone has a six-pack and is really lean, they're also really healthy.
They're not.
Even some of the earliest influencers on social media that built their profiles off that, you know, they actually said, at this time I was really sick. I was only in, like, this whole clean eating thing we know is actually fundamentally very dangerous. People that were following diets where you only eat, like, celery, no oil, no this, no that, like all this kind of thing, nothing baked, nothing fried, they were losing their periods, they were having hormonal breakouts, they were doing all this stuff because they were actually messing up their cycles.
It's bad for your brain, you can't concentrate.
No,
but last year, you're right, because last year I was so ill that I went to the doctor multiple times. I'm still following up on things.
But isn't it so sad, the people that said you look amazing? Because Ariana Grande also came out a few months ago, do you remember?
No.
And said loads of people were saying to her, like, oh my God, like, she looked so painfully ill and unwell, and people like, you look incredible, tell us your diet regime. And she literally came out and said, I'm on antidepressants, I've never been so depressed in my entire life, like, be careful when you make comments about people's bodies. And I find it ridiculous because sometimes I even get people messaging me on Instagram going like, hi, what's your weight and height? I want to put it as a goal on my mirror. I'm sorry, like, what the hell is that? Do you know what I mean?
1 week I want someone to, like, video me for a week and do a week in the life, and for people to see what I actually eat. I think people would be mortified. You're always finding it so hilarious what I eat.
But I think, like, look, at the end of the day, I've always said that, sadly, a lot of women make me feel way worse about my body image than men.
I have never felt insecure around a man, I think, around my body, ever in my whole life, which is weird. I would say women make me feel so insecure around my body. And there are some women who I've come across who are so restrictive in their eating that it makes me feel so uncomfortable to eat. So when I was younger, I did modelling when I was like 25, 26. And I remember I was friends with this girl and she was so obsessive about what she ate. So obsessive.
She
She'd check the calories. She was a model. Check the calories, check everything before we went out to eat. And I remember one time we went out to eat and we got a poke bowl. And she said, as long as I don't finish it, then that's all that matters, because I shouldn't finish a whole thing. And there I
to you.
That's what she was saying about her. There I was like munching my entire poke bowl and I was starving after it. I was so hungry. And I remember so clearly not ordering something else because I was bigger than her. And I remember thinking, she's going to think I'm so fat and she's going to think I'm so greedy, so I won't order another thing. And I remember that being a really sad moment in my life, because at that moment I decided after that I didn't really want to be friends with her. Because after she left, we both walked out of the place. It was like a food court. We walked out of the place. I said I was going in that direction. She went, and I went back. How sad is that though?
It's not.
No, it's really upsetting. Like genuinely, it's quite a sad thing that if I was with you and I felt like I couldn't eat, like what my body needs.
There's me feeding you fresh fitness food at my house.
Yeah, literally. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, if it's different if I come to your house, Rhona, or like when you eat like really healthy things and I'll eat something a bit different, right? I don't mind that because you're not making me feel that way. But let's say you were someone that was so conscious about your food and then were judging me for what I was eating. I think that is wrong. Like, let people eat what they want to eat. My body's different from yours. I can handle a lot of processed food. Your body might not be able to. Do you see what I mean? And this is what I always say is that when people say, what's your diet? I'm like, don't look at my diet because I eat crisps every single day.
Yeah, but
I have chocolate every single day. But I know that's not normal. And I'm sure later on in my life, it will catch up with me and I won't be able to do those things. But that's what I'm able to do now. And I think there's so many people that are so critical of other people's diets because they're jealous or they can't eat that themselves, and so they're like, you shouldn't be eating that and that's so terrible for you, and they're going to make you feel awful.
I think it's this whole thing, right, and we've spoken about this before, is that like people want to be other people, and instead of actually seeking the advice from people that actually know what they're talking about, like people will ask an influencer or a celebrity for teeth stuff. Why don't ask a dentist? Why literally? And you've got denfluencers or medfluencers and stuff like that, and it's like, instead of asking or looking, like, your metabolism is different to my metabolism, my height, your height, like, we're so different.
Speak to a doctor.
Yeah, exactly, about all these different various elements, and also just kind of like love the way that you are. And I think that like it took me like the best part of 10 years to also be like, I am not going to have like stick skinny legs, but you know what, like I've got other attributes, and actually it's not all about the way you look.
And also, I think it then makes you like love other people's bodies. Like, you always say you love my legs. I always say I love your waist.
Yeah.
But let's say we hadn't done that work. Maybe I would look at you and be like, oh, so annoying that you have such a tiny waist and a big bum. Because that's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And I have a really flat bum and I really want a big bum. And so, you know what? I don't like Rhona. And actually, I hate her dress.
Yeah.
And I hate her in those jeans. But that is what happens, is you'll be like, someone will say, oh, how amazing is her body? And how many times have you heard someone be like, no, it's not that great? You know, she goes to the gym all the time. And I don't have time to do that. And she has a personal trainer and I don't have time to do that. And you know, it's natural. And she's just privileged. And I spoke about this in a video the other day. I can't remember what the topic was, but it was all around how you will come up with every excuse under the sun about things that are not within your control.
But that's what we do all the time. This is why I was talking about luck in the other podcast.
Mate, I was the guest that said that I believe in luck. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? And we all come in moments in our lives where we get an opportunity, but we're not prepared.
Yeah.
That's not luck.
Yeah, but
luck is when that happens.
Listen, I think it's a goddamn miracle. I think when something happens and you haven't put in it's a miracle and it's very flipping rare.
Yeah, it's rare.
But listen, I'm going to just tell you now that I said that also people will blame things because people will sometimes look at me or look at you and be like,
she got lucky.
Shivani got lucky. She was just there at the right time on Instagram.
Yeah.
She was just embracing reels. They don't understand, but this is what I'm trying to
say. I was just going to say, someone said to me last year, you got really lucky because you're lucky you got a podcast because they're pushing reels. Yeah. I was like, okay.
Do you know?
I was like, yeah.
Same with
There's
me.
a billion people posting reels every day.
Rhona's dad bought her practice.
No,
he did not. I'm still paying off the loan, thanks. Do you know what I mean? But like there's so many assumptions because people, when they feel like something's not in their reach, it makes them feel a lot better.
If they focus on things they can't control, they don't want to take personal responsibility. Yeah,
totally. And I'm with you on that one. But that's why I think as well, really sadly, because I've got that mindset that you do, I beat myself up when I couldn't get to that level of skinny that I thought was good enough. I was like, it's because you're not working hard enough.
Yeah, agree on that.
And I think you feel the same, probably both of us with work. Like I've been like that. I've called you up and I've been
100%.
like, Shivani, I'm not doing as well as my friends. And I'm not
because of my hard work and I'm not I said this to my
and then I'm
boyfriend
like,
the other
and then you'll find I'll be there like being like, what shall I do? Shall I down? You're like, download Skillshare to help you, But the thing is that like
Skillshare's really great. You should sponsor this video.
And the thing is that I found it so difficult because I've literally been like, and I think that's why that guy's words hurt me so much when I went to Ibiza, because he goes, did you just decide to cut eating all the crap? And I was like, but I don't eat crap. And I was like, do I need to now restrict everything that I do? And it's sad. And I think the impact that people's words can have are so grave. And it really shocks me online that people think they can give unsolicited opinion advice just like that.
People comment on my photos all the time, like eat something and I upload a picture with the donut and be like, I'm great, thanks. But I will say it doesn't actually impact me because it's not conscious. Does that make sense? I think when you're really conscious about your weight, then those comments really impact you. But because
I'm conscious about everything.
But last year I was just genuinely stressed. And so it wasn't, I was trying to lose weight. It was that I was genuinely stressed. So when people say it to me, I'm very much like, I am stressed, so please don't think it's because I'm doing a new diet or a new regime. And now when I go to the gym, I put on weight because I'm building the muscle. Whilst when I don't, I just lose it. But I think the whole purpose is that we need to learn to love our bodies. At the end of the day, like you said, there's always going to be a changing diet. There's always going to be a celebrity who is endorsing one thing or the other. What makes you feel healthy?
And
what
happy.
makes you feel happy? What makes you feel confident?
Exactly.
I'm actually really not that conscious of my bum. Sometimes when I go to the gym and I look from the side, I'm like, oh my God, it is so small. But I've just learned to be like, well, I'll wear shorts. And
listen, you can wear flares and I can't.
But for me, it really is about just embracing who I am and knowing that I can't have everything that I necessarily want. And maybe it doesn't look good on me. This is why we're all different. We're not all meant to look the same.
I think, look, at the end of the day as well, it's also about understanding. And I always say this, like, give people's bodies grace, because we all go through different things, especially as women. Like, you might have 3 kids, Shivani, and your body, our bodies are ever changing. Do you see what I mean?
Oh my God, I can't wait to have 3 kids and have big boobs and a bum.
Yeah, but lol, I'll be there for you. Triplets maybe, because she's got like literally like twins on her boyfriend's side, twins on her side. Anyway.
Don't say triplets.
And the point is that, we all go through different things. And I think one of the most beautiful things is that our bodies weren't designed to be the skinniest versions of ourselves. Our bodies were designed to help us move. Our bodies were designed to get us to places. Our bodies are amazing. And we have to actually celebrate those things. Like, our body got us here now from like a crazy
supports
community.
us.
Exactly. So we need to stop punishing our bodies and instead like embrace it. And I don't mean overindulging, but I also don't mean undernourishing.
And I also don't mean just being so restrictive. You have one life.
Yeah.
If you want to eat a bloody chocolate, eat a chocolate.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to exercise it off the next day.
Yeah.
We don't all need to fit into a size 6 or a size 8 or a size 10. And I think that we are fed this narrative of the smaller you are, the better you are. Yeah. Actually, the happier you are,
the better you are.
The better you are. And, I know that feeling of when you're like on an empty stomach because you're just feeling like, for me, it's when I'm really stressed and I have an empty stomach and I'm like, am I anxious? Am I hungry? I don't know what it is, but I can't eat if I'm stressed. I just find it very overwhelming. And that is actually something I need to work on, because I have to either learn to manage my stress or learn to make sure I remember to eat when I'm stressed, when I'm not. But I also do think that we don't have to eat the same every day. Some days I'll eat like 3,000 calories and then the next day I probably won't eat as much. And so it's not about, every day you have to follow this really strict routine and you have to eat this many calories. I think if you want a calorie count because you're working towards a particular goal, great. But I don't think that we all should be calorie counting. I don't calorie count. I think it's like a very toxic mentality. And now that there's calories on menus in restaurants, I hate it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that I got rid of that ages ago. I think that my body intuitively knows what I do and what I not need, especially around my cycle. I've just got used to that, but it's taken time. And I genuinely do love healthy food. Like my mum is like we grew up in a Lebanese household, tabbouleh, fattoush, but my mum also never restricted carbs either. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the whole thing that carbs are bad, I literally, if I restrict carbs, I get so tired and pissed off,
I don't think I could survive.
Yeah.
Also, I come from an Indian family. Carbs is the only thing we know, we don't have any protein.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to like shove protein into my parents' diet. But I also love healthy food, but I also love donuts. I also love pizza. I also love pasta. I don't necessarily think that they're really bad for you. I think you can make healthy versions of them at home, which is what I do anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's all around having balance. And I think this thing around body dysmorphia and body image is that, you know, the only opinion that matters is yours.
Yeah.
When you look in the mirror, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Do you feel confident? Do you feel great? Do you feel happy? Then great. If a random boy or a random girl says, oh, you look so skinny, you look great, thanks, that's your opinion, goodbye.
Yeah.
If a random person says, oh, you look so skinny, you look disgusting, again, thanks, that's your opinion, goodbye.
And I have to say that I've tried to learn now that when people feel it's okay to make comments on my body, because sometimes I end up in tears to my therapist. I'm like, how can that person say that? How can that person say? She's literally like, it's their problem. It's their problem. But she
It's
also,
your problem.
but you know, she says as well, like, sometimes people also make assumptions. They assume that the person they're saying to, they would only say it to someone they think is wildly confident. Do you know what I mean?
So true.
So they'd be like, Rhona surely isn't an unconfident person.
And she's not going to care about my stupid comment.
Yeah, but then I'm like, your words have such a grave impact on me. Anyway, the point is, again, a work in progress, but I really, really, really want people to consider the words they say, their online conduct has such an impact on people. It really, really did have an impact on me. And also, conversely to that, any compliment makes my day. And also, if you've got something nice to say, say something nice, because it makes such a difference. Do you know, I will make an effort sometimes to even cross the street and say something nice to someone if I notice something, because it can make someone's day.
It really does make your day when someone comes up to you and says, oh, I really love your jacket, or I really love your jeans, or like, you look really lovely, or something like that. I think it's so sweet.
Yeah, and you're like, yes, I do it all the time to people.
It's so nice. I think you're right. You know, at the end of the day, it is really difficult to always not be impacted by what other people say. Whether that's you look skinny or you look big. I actually don't think those words should ever be used.
Yeah.
It should be you look nice or you look great. But then, Rhona, on the flip side of that, let's say you've lost loads of weight and someone says you look great. People are now too scared to even give a compliment because people are so conscious.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, we know that weight gain and weight loss should never be a compliment or an insult. I really think it's just something. As someone once said to me, I'm not TripAdvisor. This isn't a place where you can write a review. So there we go.
I love that. Let's end it on that.
All right.
Love that.
Amazing.
So good.
So thank you so much for coming on Thursday Thought. I'm talking like it's my
Thanks,
podcast.
Rhona. Thanks for having me.
On Shivani's podcast. Okay. Love you.